The NHS clearly has a role in promoting healthy and sustainable communities, and just one of the ways in which they can do this is through better building design and improving the energy efficiency of existing NHS buildings. As the country's largest employer and with a total spend on goods, foods and services which represents some 10% of regional economies, the NHS can and must make a significant contribution to the health and sustainability of the communities it serves. One of the ways in which planners can make NHS buildings better places to work and treat patients is by paying close attention to where they're sited, both in terms of the pleasantness of surroundings and accessibility to other local community facilities. In this programme, we hear the views of Dr. David Pension, Director of the NHS Sustainable Unit, who tells us how NHS organisations can work towards creating a healthier, more sustainable future for the communities it serves. We also hear from Anshan and Alan, Panoya and Prasad, and Skanska, who explain how they've helped the NHS promote sustainability and to make NHS buildings better places to work and treat patients.
It's important that not just new hospitals are built, but current hospitals and healthcare centres and all sorts of buildings in the NHS are refurbished in line with targets. The first thing to say is targets are necessary because no one knows which direction they're going. So whatever we say about the curse of targets, they do give everybody a very clear picture. However, carbon reduction and sustainability is a relatively new form of behaviour, relatively new form of activity, and thus has a relatively new form of measurement. So first of all, we need to clarify what those targets are, and those targets are largely set outside the health service for all buildings, but the NHS would quite like to be a public sector leading exemplar of that. So it's important that people who run the healthcare estate are absolutely clear what the targets are. And we've looked at all the evidence in the Sustainable Development Unit, and we're fairly clear that the sort of target we're looking for is a 10% reduction in most things that are undesirable, like high energy costs, from 2007 to 2015. So a 10% drop in that, which is quite a challenge when you consider that most people see it good that the NHS grows. So that's quite a challenge to say we're going to deliver high quality healthcare but with less of a carbon impact. So 10% by 2015 doesn't sound very much, but it is actually quite a lot, and it's very important to turn this sort of super tanker of the health service round from increasing its carbon impact to reducing its carbon impact. And 10% by 2015 is only a small part of the trajectory to an 80% reduction by 2050, and we know that it's highly unlikely that the NHS is going to meet government targets of 80% reduction by 2050 if we don't even get to 10% reduction by 2015. So that's about a 3% year-on-year reduction. But we know that many organisations can do this because many organisations, both within and outside the health service, have done this already. And we know there's a very big campaign on at the moment, 1010, to reduce the carbon impact of houses, families, individuals, organisations, buildings, hotels, schools, etc. by 10% in 2010. So we know there's a very strong commitment, and over 100 hospitals in the NHS have signed up to 1010. The devil will undoubtedly be in the detail of what actually are we measuring and how are we measuring it and how is it being validated. But actually we need to send out the message that the health service is not immune to this big societal challenge. There's no point in the health service saying, well, we do good things already, surely this doesn't apply to us. It absolutely applies to us. In fact, we should be a leading exemplar in making sure that the health service is compliant with government set targets.
Anshan and Alan's healthcare projects encompass a broad range of healthcare facilities and hospitals that range anywhere from small interventions in highly dense urban centers to very large, complex university campus hospitals on greenfield sites. The lessons learned in highly dense areas, such as at the Great Ormond Street Hospital in the heart of Bloomsbury here in London, were very inspirational for our intervention at the Meyer Children's Hospital in Florence, where we had to incorporate the old 1930s building wings which formed the Villa Ognissanti, into the new Children's Hospital development, which was tucked into the Tuscan hill with magnificent views. And talking about magnificent views, there is no better site than the one that the Pembrey Hospital will have in Kent, the Garden of England. Equally significant is the fact that this will be the first all single-bed hospital for the NHS.
At Anton & Allen, we address sustainability from 2 points of view. The first is that we take on board a widely accepted understanding that for something to be sustainable, it needs to address the environmental, social and economic spheres. The second point of view is the impact that our work has on the users of the building, patients, staff and visitors. We set out to create an environment in which wellness is nurtured, and all three of the user groups, so to speak, contribute to that. The staff experience is very important for us. We designed the building with clarity of planning to reduce staff journeys, to connect with nature, to produce good clinical outcomes, and we feel that all of these will contribute to reducing stress for staff.
Good healthcare design has a number of layers. Primarily, it brings together a concept of wellness as well as a broader concept of sustainability towards ecological benefit and ecological mitigation of the action of building. NHS is responsible for around 3% of the overall building stock in the UK, and therefore there is a great degree of responsibility on the NHS. Primarily, good design has to provide a good quality of environment, not just to the patients, who are obviously primarily the focus group, but also to the staff as well as the visitor. It can be done in a number of ways in design. Some of the examples, such as the Pembrey Hospital, does it very effectively by engaging the occupants of the building with the natural therapeutic value of the site, but also through our research-based, evidence-based design practices. There are a number of efficiencies in functionalities that have been included in design, which is inherent in the design. Concepts such as a very strong clinical functionality diagram which forms the basis of setting out the hospital.
We worked endlessly with our design team in a collaborative way in trying to come up with a design of a window that provided the necessary environment. We worked with Anton & Allen and the SSR, working through thermal heat models to assess the solar heat gains of the bedroom in order so that we can actually establish the ventilation requirements that we needed to provide the environment for the patient. This took quite a while, but we believe we've come up with a design of a window that not only achieves that, but also provides an aesthetically pleasing environment and a window that the patient can use to look out at the views across the Pembrey Valley.
We spent a long time in the early stages of this project working with the NPSA and the user groups in making sure that the patient safety was managed well, and that we discovered that patients tend to have a lot of accidents trying to get generally across the room to the WC. So we've developed a means that they can actually, from the bed to the ensuite, they've got a handrail, it's all on the same side, and it actually allows them to safely get to the WC and back.
The way the single bedroom has been designed is based on a lot of evidence-based design research that is inherent in Anton & Allen's research process and design ethos. One of the key features of the functionality of the single bedroom is the modular design and the repetitiveness of the microplanning that has gone into laying out this room, taking into consideration health and safety issues and the journey of the patient and the relationship to the ensuite to minimize falls and also minimize nursing errors through the repetitiveness and modularity of the room down to the ward design.
We understand the imperatives that are posed upon us, and we're very proud to have now 15 hospitals in course of obtaining the certifications which are required and exceeding them. But beyond that, we define sustainability in a much broader sense, anywhere from cultural sustainability to environmental, social, and so on. And in my view, trying to extend the feel of nature to the inside of hospitals creating an environment which nurtures, which protects and uplifts the spirit, defining sustainability as an element of continuity, of cultural understanding. There's, again, one of our main concerns, and we take that very seriously.
The Green Patient Lab is an initiative that brings together, through design, the concepts of designing a patient environment based on evidence-based design, as well as broader concepts of sustainability in the built environment. The Green Patient Room is divided broadly into 3 zones, which is the patient zone, which addresses issues of comfort, of privacy, of dignity, as well as a general sense of well-being for the patient inhabiting it. Then the family zone, where the carer is given as much importance to delivering healthcare to make the patient feel better. And then there's the staff zone, which is the nursing environment. And amongst all of this, there is the added layer of having a connection with nature. So there is natural ventilation, natural daylighting, which actually enhances the healing recovery process. Besides which, the Green Patient Lab also encouraged the use of sustainable materials. Materials that had low carbon footprint, materials that had the opportunity to be recycled, a sense of responsibility on the architect and the designer side, that you are not only providing a bespoke, made-to-order patient environment, but you are expressing a responsibility of the hospital as well as the designer towards the environment.
Transforming the lives of those who inhabit hospitals designed by Ansel and Allen is an imperative for our design. It's a responsibility, and it's a privilege to soften the hard edge of necessary technology, to bring together the most advanced research with the old values of caring and cultural understanding.
The advantage of polyclinics, certainly as I understand them, is they can move care closer to home. And that's convenient for patients, convenient for the public. It may change practice for many of us as health professionals in the health service. And certainly I remember as a clinical doctor myself, it's very comfortable for me to stay in the hospitals and let patients come to me. But I was very conscious that occasionally I had to go out and do clinics. There is a great danger with polyclinics. Well, there are a number of dangers with polyclinics. And one is that it means different things to different people. But most importantly is that when we often propose a new sort of structure, a new sort of system in the health service, that's fine. But if we're going to do it cost effectively, if we're going to use taxpayers' money wisely, we need to close something else in order to do it. There's absolutely no point introducing polyclinics if they merely duplicate services that are actually running already. So most people in the health service, like most other services, welcome new services, bring it on, the more the merrier. But actually, it's not a very cost-effective thing to do unless you're shutting something else, which is more inefficient, more expensive to run, less convenient for patients, and as far as we're concerned, less sustainable. So great if they've been properly evaluated and we know that fewer people are going to move, they're going to be less miles travelled, more convenient. But we have to think about the whole system, not just measure the polyclinic. So we need to understand what is the effect of a particular polyclinic on a particular health economy or system or community. Again, the devil will be in the detail. In principle, they're fine, but I think we've got to take them all on a case-by-case issue.
Penoya and Prasad is a firm of architects. We were founded in 1988, and we are dedicated to making architecture which is centered on the needs of users. That's one of our absolute core principles, but also on the qualities of their sites, to make something that is sustainable and durable and also beautiful in the best sense of the word. 20 years or so ago, people in health services, pretty much around the world actually, started talking about patient-focused medicine. Suddenly realized that actually all of the medical institutions seem to be configured to suit the health services rather than the patient. You know, all the design was for the convenience of, let's say, the staff. And with that realization came the idea that you really have to see the world from the patient's point of view. And then you might actually recruit their own healing capacities, their own mental states to the therapeutic process, rather than the two being in conflict. Now, Penoy and Prasad believed from the start that there must be an equivalent of that in design. And indeed, we weren't the only ones. Many people have done fantastic pioneering work in this field, but we embraced that. And therefore, all our healthcare design has been targeted at making buildings which put the patient at the centre, and by proxy, therefore, the staff also at the centre, because patients are treated by staff.
Yes, a building like this, of course it have an effect on the patients and their sense of well-being, because it's bright, it's nice light colours, the pinks, the brightness, it's transparent here, you can get the light in on a nice sunny bright day. So it does have an impact on patients and how they feel.
We saw great potential when the LIFT program, that is the Local Improvement Finance Trust program, was announced to hugely increase the number of well-designed facilities to deliver primary care. It was part of a shift in the health service from acute to primary care to bring care closer to people. And now we're here in the heart of Hounslow Health Centre, which is part of the LIFT program of Ealing, Hammersmith and Fulham and Hounslow. 3 PCTs, 3 local authorities getting together to take a holistic look at the whole area and devise a program of buildings that relate to each other. One of the key aspects of the LIFT program is, as is practiced here, is as far as possible put together the different services that people need.
This is a completely new idea in healthcare. We're talking about a polyclinic at the heart of Hounslow, where a family can come into the centre, they can visit a GP surgery, they can visit the dentist surgery, maternity services, child services. All in all, they can do a one-stop shop for the care for the whole family in the easiest possible way. One of the new innovations that we're trying at the present time is the paging system, whereby they can come into us, book in, we hand them a pager, and they can go downstairs then into the restaurant, they can go into children's services and use any other facilities that they want within the centre, and then we call them when their appointment's ready, they come straight up and are seen straight away. A lot better for them, a lot better for us, and it helps them make full use of the whole centre.
Looking after the patient also means looking after the healthcare workers. It means looking after the doctors, the nurses, the health visitors and so on, and giving them the best possible facilities, the most functional facilities, so that, for example, you're not walking from A to B all day without actually interacting with patients. Your work is made easier by the building working like a tool in your hand, rather than something that just gets in the way or just is very utilitarian.
The work environment that most of us spend a significant part of the day is more appealing to be into, because they are all the relevant spaces to satisfy our working needs and to satisfy our spare time to our recreational needs. For example, the small restaurants and the small working area rest spaces.
So here in the staff club, we have the nice soft relaxing chairs over there, nice bright colours again, and we get away from the brown and the harsh tables on this side. And I think it's important that we, feel comfortable and feel happy. Coming in is totally unlike any NHS building I've worked in the past. I know it's called the Heart of Hounslow, and I didn't know why, but obviously now that I'm up here, I feel like I'm on top of the, really in the heart of Hounslow, and that's where we are really.
At the heart of Hounslow Centre and other health buildings, such as the Richard Desmond Children's Eye Care Centre at Moorfields, the Knockbreeder Centre in Belfast, along with a large number of other similar buildings, we have striven for an architecture that, while accommodating immediate needs, also helps our client achieve bigger organisational and cultural goals in a way that accommodates future change. The NHS is the single largest user of energy in the UK and responsible for 3% of our total carbon footprint. Penoy and Prasad have been trying as far as possible from the beginning in our buildings to push sustainability as a design criterion to the max, within quite strict funding limits. And whilst we haven't always been able to do what we want, the key moves are pretty self-evident. Very high levels of insulation, high levels of adaptability, by the way. Adaptability is one of the absolute keys of sustainability, because we want the buildings to last long. So here at the heart of Hounslow Centre, for example, the building is devised so that it can be easily altered and changed and put to new uses, without too much expenditure of additional energy and additional resources. We're in very challenging economic times, and they're not going to get better very quickly. But the good news out of that is that we might actually start looking at our existing buildings in a fresh way, in a fresh, ingenious, new way, to reuse buildings more, to create buildings which are delivering more and more value for money while being sustainable and durable. The spontaneous approval of patients, of health workers, healthcare workers, doctors, nurses, that is the biggest accolade you can receive, hearing that they actually feel that their lives have been improved by the existence of the designs that you've made.
One of the things we've done in the health service is to take lots of policies, like do we have polyclinics, or should we reduce the temperature of every hospital by just 1 degree? What effect would that have? We obviously want to go for improving patient care now and the future, because don't forget that climate change is as judged by many experts nationally and internationally, one of the biggest health threats we face. So we want to improve healthcare, save money, because we don't want to throw taxpayers' money away in places it's not going to have an impact, but also do things sustainably. Do things, help the health service deliver policy today in a way that doesn't mean that it's even more difficult to do it tomorrow. The health service is a very here and now organisation. We see 1 million people every 36 hours. We're absolutely focused on the patient or the patients in front of us. So doing that at the same time as thinking, actually, is this having a negative impact on the environment tomorrow or next week or next decade? It's quite a lot of things to juggle.
Skanska is one of the world's leading construction companies, operating out of 5 home markets, obviously the UK being one of those markets. We are a Swedish company. Our parent, Skanska AB, is based in Sweden, and we work in the Nordics. Then we also work in North and South America and also in Central Europe. Our public-private partnership, or PPP health portfolio, includes 8 major hospital developments: King's College, QE, Coventry, Derby, Mansfield, Walsall and Barts and the London. At Barts and the Royal London Hospitals, one of the largest ever PPPs in Europe, construction alone is worth around £1 billion. Our PPP healthcare contracts are delivering world-class healthcare facilities with state-of-the-art medical equipment and teaching facilities, as well as new jobs and opportunities for local employment. Added to this is our commitment to contribute to a more sustainable NHS and to reduce the NHS's overall carbon footprint.
In terms of designing a building with sustainability in mind, there are many energy savings that we can make. For example, at the Kingsmill Hospital, the renewable ground source heat pump system gave many energy savings, and it was a new technology, innovative both for the NHS and for Skanska. We used the lake that is already there, and we used it to provide almost free heating and cooling for the hospital. The way that we did it was to install a closed loop system in the reservoir, which means that there's no contamination to the reservoir at all because we don't use the water directly. But what we do is install a series of panels, a little bit like radiators, into the lake. They then use the extra heat that the lake has in the winter to provide heating to the hospital. Or in the summer, when the lake is cooler than the outside air and the temperature, it provides cooling to the hospital. It's very, very energy efficient, much more efficient than coal or oil or any traditional technology. Because for every 1 kilowatt of power that you put into the system, you get between 4 and 7 kilowatts back again, which means that you have far better CO2 emissions, but also there's lots of cost savings there for the NHS for many, many years to come.
Staff at the world-renowned hospitals of Barts and the Royal London will soon be treating patients in an environment that reflects the excellent levels of clinical care. The responsibility of construction is down to Skanska. We're a company committed to all aspects of environmental sustainability. Both new hospitals are being constructed in line with the Building Research Establishment, BRE's Sustainability Rating of Excellence. Sustainability is not new to Skanska. As a learning organisation, Skanska brings Swedish culture and global environmental experience. Skanska UK was the first construction company in the UK to have 100% of operations certified to Environmental Management System Standard ISO 14001.
The design of a hospital does impact on patient care and patient outcomes. If we just talk about patient outcomes in the first place, the environment for the patient is very, very important, but also the clinical, technical arrangement is very important, and the two do not necessarily converge conveniently. However, if we start in a highly clinical area such as theatres, then it's all about process flows, and it's all about the efficiency of those flows. And indeed, theatre design is somewhat modelled on Formula One pit stop design, where they look for efficiencies. That's literally how they did a study recently. And a lot of the evidence in terms of these processes is based on evidence-based design. So the primary function will be to get those clinical flows right. Of course, hospitals aren't just for patients. There's a huge population in terms of staffing and visitors. Now, one point that's common to both staff and visitors is the access, the general access to the hospital. So that will include private parking and public transport and any other hospital arranged transports that there might be. Now, in terms of staffing, there generally is a large allocation giving over to staffing, and this is essential in terms of their ability to come to work, to attend work easily, and not to be held up looking for parking spaces and so on. Now, this is all about their ability to do their job and about time, and it's essential that these guys are highly qualified and they need to find their way to work, and it's all part of them getting into work in a fit state of mind. So in attending the facilities, the staff have reasonable access to whether it's private car or public transport, and that's all part of the infrastructure design.
Skanska's got an important part to play in helping the NHS to become more sustainable and overall lowering the carbon footprint of the whole of the UK. Hospital buildings use huge amounts of energy, and we've proven through our extensive experience both in the UK and elsewhere in the world that we can lower those footprints by using technologies like ground source heating, biomass boilers, photovoltaics and a lot of other technical solutions. We're convinced that with our Swedish roots and extensive experience in the UK and globally that we can really help the NHS to achieve their challenging carbon targets by 2019 or even before that. We're working on a number of new healthcare buildings and also with a number of hospital trusts to refurbish their old and antiquated estate, again to reduce carbon emissions. Skanska's got a lot of expertise that complements the huge amount of expertise within the NHS. By working together, we can make a real difference on sustainable healthcare buildings and sustainable healthcare delivery now and in years to come.
We hope this programme has gone some way in showcasing what the NHS can do to promote sustainability and to make NHS buildings better places to work and treat patients. By learning from good practice across the health and public sectors, all NHS organisations can work towards creating a healthier, more sustainable future for the communities it serves. I'm Georgina Burnett, and you've been watching Building a Sustainable NHS. Good build, good healthcare.